Oh, are we on?
Yes, we are.
Oh, yes. Good evening.
Yes.
My name is Odie Hawkins, and it's Monday, and here we are once again doing our program. This evening, well, let me explain why we're here on this cyber corner. It is to sell some of these books. Some of these books, I have 38 published books, and a friend of mine told me, please have a seat, Zola. Welcome to the club.
Yes.
Pull up a chair. I'm drinking a little fruit juice. What are you having there?
I'm having a little coffee, even though it's late.
She would be having a
The
little coffee.
Vietnamese coffee, yes, indeed. Just a sip, about a fourth of a cup.
Right.
So get yourself some libation and
That's a good idea.
a snack.
A snack.
Okay.
My buddy was saying to me, why do they call you the underground master? What is that about? So, well, a lot of people are familiar with something I've written, but they don't know me very much. But that could be the way it is sometimes. Anyway, he convinced me that it would be a good idea for us to put ourselves on YouTube.
Yes.
And here we are.
On YouTube. And Facebook.
Yeah. You put on the earrings. I'm sorry, but I didn't know you had
they look heavy, but they're not.
They're not heavy.
Okay, no.
Oh.
I've had them for years.
Gorgeous,
Well,
gorgeous.
thank you.
So, here we are, and what we decided to do on Monday evenings is to discuss the books, of course, and then related matters. And one of the things that we've talked about that would be interesting to find out what other people think about this. We've been talking about the value of reading. I've been reading a book by the MSNBC host, Chris Hayes. Good God, I couldn't get. Anyway, he goes into talking about how our attention is being drawn to things by means other than books, by things other than writing, other than reading. And we started talking about it, about the value of reading, and especially for up-and-coming writers or people who are interested in writing. You gave a very interesting opinion about why it is that we should read. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, basically, the fact is that the world is much smaller than, we would think, say, 100 years ago. And you're always interacting, well, not always, but many times you're interacting with people who are well-read. And if you're in a...
Well, no, wait a minute. I would like to, that's the problem.
That is the problem.
Very often you interact with people who are not very well-read.
Well, it is, let me put it, if you travel...
They're very smart.
If you travel.
Oh, okay.
If you travel, especially in other countries, that you have people who are well-read and who speak English well. In many countries, they speak more than one language. Only in America do we have this thing with only English.
English. As a matter of
English,
fact...
and the English say we do not speak English.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so there you go with that. But, that I find that there's just so much. I remember as a child getting spanked before I was into Hans Christian Andersen books, the fairy tales. And there was a story, I think it was the ballet shoes, the red ballet shoes or something. It was
the red ballerina.
Ballerina something. There's something about the shoes. Anyway, so I hadn't finished it. So I took the lamp from my bedside corner and I covered it up, and I was under the covers.
A familiar ploy in that.
Right. Everybody, nobody could see. Obviously, you could see the light through the covers. They wouldn't notice the lump on the bed. Okay. Next thing I knew, I got a bam from Mommy's husband, present husband at the time, Dr. Herbert Mosley. And he spanked me and said, "You could burn the house down." And I'm like, "How could I burn the house down? I'm reading the lamp." Okay, but I didn't notice that the lamp was hot. And it was the lamp, the bulb, that was against the covers, okay? And so it could have set a fire, but I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, he didn't want me to read, okay? That was based on my limited knowledge of circumstances, my frame of reference, okay?
Yeah.
But, you know, I had a passion for reading, and I know you can get yourself lost in a good book. Like this one, you can get lost in it.
We're gonna get. Thank you for that introduction. We're gonna get into this a little bit as we go along. It's called Shackles Across Time, and the cover art was done by Zola, Salena-Hawkins. We've been cooperating with each other, mentioning the need for reading or the good effect it can have on your life. I'd like to take us to another place. The book has an African background, so let me go there in relation to reading.
Okay.
As you know, in 1992, I went to Ghana, West Africa. I went to stay for 3 months and wound up staying 3 years. And we made a couple of trips back since that time. But one of the things that happened a few months after I was there, I wound up writing and directing a television show called Inspector Betty Arco, but that's another story for another day. Another story for another day. I went to something called the Ghana Secondary School. It was secondary school for girls, and I thought,
you were teaching there.
I was teaching. I went, and frankly, I was thinking about earning a little extra money, but I found out, talking with the head, Mrs. Owusu, that they didn't have any money. But she said, we certainly would like to have you come in teacher writing class. So if you're open to the idea, you know, we could give you lunch when you come. And I thought, okay, that's a fair exchange. The class was 2 days a week. And, okay, these were teenage African girls. I think the oldest girl in the class was 19. Secondary school. And we started off with a very, you know, sort of, how can I put it? They thought I was there for one reason, and I was not there for that reason. I was there to teach.
Right.
And once we got that settled, things settled down a little bit by the time we went to the second week. It occurred to me that the need for Africans, specifically Ghanaians, I can't talk about Africa, but in this particular case, I found out that most of the people in the class, none of the people in the class knew very much about African American history. Okay, now we've always been pushing to have our people here know as much as you can about your history because they're constantly trying to obliterate it.
Right.
I mean, the present day situation is nothing new.
Right.
But I was struck dumb by the fact that I asked the girls, Fatima, for example, what do you know about African Americans? Michael Jordan, she says. Okay, that's not African American. What do you know, Mabel? What do you know about African American history? Oh, the Sidney Poitier. That's not American.
Right. Yeah.
They knew figures.
Right.
And wow, I would leave the school and go home and, you know, write a little bit about what it is I had experienced talking to them about African Americans and African American history. Now, as we know, ever since we've been brought here, we've been trying to force the people who put us on this land to give us a chance to explore our own history. It's always been an uphill battle. But I was struck dumb by the fact that there were educated Ghanaians. We would meet and have a beer and talk about things. And you could come to almost a dead stop by talking about African American history, which would encompass the Caribbean, the Caribbean,
Right.
or Africans who were in places like the Polynesian Islands. You can't tell me the Fijians look like Samoans. So there's been a divergence of some kind of history there. I don't know the complete story. But over time, I realized that I should write something about African American history that would appeal to Ghanaians, well, to Africans in general.
Right.
I came up with something called Shackles Across Time. If you look at the art closely, you'll see that what Zola has done. You explain it. This is your piece.
Well, all right. So I thought of Africa, and I thought about all the countries that have taken a piece of this huge pie. You know, England, the Dutch, Germans, a variety of people, and so I added the flags within it. And I thought of the grandfather clock. I've always been fascinated with the grandfather clock, and the song of my grandfather's clock was so big for the hall. My grandfather's clock was so big for the hall.
It was like a nursery rhyme?
It's basically a song, and that the clock, the grandfathers died the day that his clock stopped.
Really?
Yeah, that according to the song. And so, consequently, I put a heart tick-tock in the grandfather's clock. And I made gold bars here and a gold chain to the heart, because everything that people are trying to get out of Africa is not the heart of Africa. They don't care about breaking Africa's heart, the motherland's heart. They only care about the minerals and gold that can be taken out of too often. And there's so much more to the country than that. And then, of course, I wrapped the country around a chain because with chains, because it
was in chains.
It's been wrapped in chains entirely too long, and should be free. But that's another story.
Well, here, since you've taken us that far, let me give you a brief rundown of the story. I started off with a writer. I'm calling him Chester L. Simmons. Chester L. Simmons is a fairly well-known African-American writer who is not particularly interested in Africa, but he's approached by a group of people in Chicago who are interested in genealogy and where did I come from and so forth. They know that Chester is on his way to Africa to do a book tour, I believe, or to do some research for a book. They persuade him, no money exchange other than, some incidental expenses. They persuade him to go to Ghana. I'm using, one of the things that writers should do is write what you know about. If you don't know about it, find out about it. I'm not an African expert. Some people call them Africanists. I'm not a total Africanist, but I try to know as much as I can about my subject matter. Chester goes to Africa and he finds out a very interesting thing that happens with one of the families. It seems that, maybe in the early 18th century, one member of a family who lived in an area of Accra, Ghana, in an area called Osu. It's a section of Ghana. A section of Accra. A member of this family had been sold away by an unscrupulous person that his family owed money to. And in order for this guy to get his money, he decides to sell this young man. And he does. And the young man is taken away, enslaved. But before he is taken away, his grandfather, who is a Bokor, let's just say that's a person with powers, decides to put a curse on the man who has sold his grandson. He puts a curse on him.
And his descendants.
And
Not
and
just
his
him.
and his descendants. Well, that comes later because he tells this person, "You're right, I'm wrong. I wrote the book, but you know it better than I do." He places a curse on this man and his descendants that for doing what they have done, selling his grandson away, they will be cursed by certain kinds of physical infirmities over the centuries. One was born with a hydrocephalic head and flippers for hands. Another one would be born and become a nymphomaniac. Somebody else has club feet. Someone is afflicted by insanity. The family is every third member of this particular family, the family of the slave trader.
Every third child.
Every third child.
Right,
I had to put some kind of number on it for me to keep track of what it was. So this is a way that this family has to get back at the slave trader. Incidentally, sometime after the slave trader had done his foul deed, his family was taken into slavery.
Right.
And transported to Brazil. I'm trying to cover the diasporas. Frequently people will say, well, we're talking about the diaspora. I think you have to realize that out of Africa, there were many diasporas. There was a diaspora to the Caribbean first. There was a diaspora to New York, to Bahia.
Right.
So it was not just simply one group of people taken to one particular place, like Mississippi. We've been taken all over the place. Dispersed. Diaspora.
Yes.
That's diaspora. Anyway, the diaspora is, it can be canceled out, this curse, but certain things have to be done. Chester L. Simmons gets caught up in this. He finds out, and this Bokor, another Bokor, says, well, if we could consult the ancestors, they might be able to forgive the ancestors of the man who did this thing.
Right.
But first, Chester has to go through a cleansing ceremony, and cleansing ceremonies in almost any spiritual system tend to be very exhaustive.
Exactly.
And in order to become a Sangoma in Sangoma in South Africa, for example, there's something they have to ingest that's called black water. It causes it to throw up, and it means you empty your whole system.
Right.
And then you are eligible to be filled, refunded. This is what happens to Chester, who gets in a little deeper than he thought he wanted to be in, because he has to go through the cleansing ceremony.
This initially started as a writing assignment, an investigative assignment, and then it got serious.
And then it got serious, yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's exactly my intention. You know, it's a lark.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ask a couple of people.
Right.
You know.
I mean, how to get rid of a curse? Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to it.
Is there such a thing as a curse?
Nothing. A
It's
curse.
a real. Okay. Right.
Okay. Several people sort of pretend that they don't know what he's talking about. And the reason I stress the need for Africans to know something about African American history is because during the time I was doing the outline for the book, I quizzed my friends. These are Ghanaians. They have family lines that go for centuries. And I'm asking, so, okay, who in here has had a family member enslaved by the Europeans? Nothing. Nobody. I was even invited at one point to the University of Ghana at Legon and giving a little talk to about 300-400 students. I asked the question, can I ask someone to raise their hands who has had an ancestor who was enslaved? Nobody raised their hand. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in this auditorium has had a family member who was enslaved. No one raised their hands. Several people approached me after I done my little thing and said, you know, you are making an assumption that we are not totally in agreement with, because the African, you African Americans, that is your history. So wait a minute, you know, the African history has a bunch of branches on that tree.
Yes.
And you're not going to tell me that if we didn't come from Africa,
Right.
then how could we become African Americans in the diaspora, or Africans in the diaspora? They sort of danced around that. Well, you know, this has always been slavery. I said, no, you know, could you tell me whether or not, you're Ga, right? The guy's Ga. In past years, in past centuries, you had wars, let's say, with the Fanti or the Ashanti or some other national group in Ghana. And you had some of your relatives taken away and enslaved. You don't remember who they were? Oh, yes. Okay, so if you're taken into slavery on the African continent, they deserve to be remembered. But if they were taken away by the Europeans overseas, the family doesn't remember who was in the family. This went on for quite a while, about 2 or 3 weeks. And finally, in my favorite cafe, the Salena-Hawkins Cafe, wonderful beer, wonderful beer. Ghanaian
It was ABC at
ABC.
the time. It was ABC,
ABC.
before it became club.
On a hot day,
Yes.
an ABC.
I don't drink beer, but that
Yes.
when it turned club
I do
beer,
drink beer, and it's good.
it was good. Okay.
I looked up, I was teaching a capoeira class in Osu at the time. I had about 20 students. And I'm sitting in my favorite cafe after the class was over, relaxing, and a couple of my students came in, Aziji and Fast Eddie, who is now Pastor Edwin Ofori-Ba. They said, we'd like to talk to you. Okay, yeah. So there's a lady here named Betty who says she knows about a member of her family who was enslaved. So I'd like to meet her. So they arranged for the meeting, and we set up, and she was surprised to know that a member of her family, many generations back, had been enslaved, a woman, a female, who was thought to be of less value than a male, had been sold into slavery for a 50-pound bag of sugar. And that was the only opening I had.
Talk about a sweet deal.
For
somebody.
Sweetheart, for real.
Right, for someone, yeah.
But it was so shocking to think that you could have a member of your family, if you were into the African mode of doing folk memory of the men, and possibly 2 women too, I don't know, but the men who can tell you the history of what happened in a certain family for 5 or 6 generations.
Well, from the Bible thing, as a child, I was very annoyed at he begot, he begot, he begot, he begot, he begot, he begot, and he begot. And I was like, so all these men begot children and there were no women? Okay, I don't know about
Well,
this.
you know.
Okay, so the women are not mentioned in the Bible.
Okay, well, we know
Mm-hmm.
that most societies in Africa are patriarchal. They are matriarchal societies. I think one of them is the Ashanti. I'm not certain of that, but I think it's the Ashanti. Certain groups of people that are matriarchal. The man gets married and goes to live with the wife, goes to live with the wife's family.
Wait, no, one of the stories you said was when you were at the girls' school. A young student came with a book, and it had a passage that read.
Yeah. she says, I've been asking the story about, I've been asking who can tell me something about America. What do you know about America? And other than Mike Jordan and maybe Muhammad Ali, she came with the information that in this book that I have read, sir, it says that in centuries gone by, many Africans went away to some place called America. They went away to help build up the country of America. So, whoa, wait a minute. What is this book? She bought the old tattered book. I think it may have belonged to her mother, grandfather, somebody. And it was written by one of these old racist Englishmen who made it clear that the Africans, I want that, did they book passage?
Yeah, volunteer.
Did they volunteer?
Can I go? Can I go?
Yeah, from the way she told it, it was they wanted to go to America to help build the place up. So that was her version of...
And there you go. So often there is misinformation. And so this young lady would have assumed or trusted this information because it was in black and white in a book. And not
That's
aware.
the key point.
Yeah, that is not aware. And so, as we began this segment of our YouTube, Facebook, we talked about the importance of reading. And it's not only what you read, how you read, and who you read. Like I was a favorite, I loved Ayn Rand until I saw an interview with her, with I think William F. Buckley. I saw an interview with her, I forgot who it was. But I was so unimpressed with her as a person. So I had to separate her, the person, from her, the work. And I appreciate her work. But I thought she was a rather flawed person. And that is, in my opinion.
Well, that's been the case with many writers I could think of. I'm not going totally away from Shackle's time.
Right.
But that has been the case with, I think, a number of people. The people who write books are not saints. They're not perfect. But if you pick up a well-written book, you might be able to separate the information and the language and the intelligence that it brings you. Even if the book is written by a madman, and don't forget that there have been a number of madmen to write books. I'm not talking about me.
Well, I thought Edgar Allan Poe wasn't too wrapped too tight, but but I enjoyed his work.
Yeah. So we're not trying to make a brief for read something written by Nikos Kazistakis, and you'll find out that John Shanazaki really was not quite sane. Well, okay. Some people might say, and this is something we could go off on to another time, some people might say that you have to be a little nuts to write a book anywhere. Well, I don't agree with that. I think that you can be sane. As a matter of fact, a number of people I can think of have written books that enable me to look at sanity and insanity in a number of different ways. It might be of some value to be a little crazy to want to say some of the things you have to say about, for example, the current conditions happening today in America. I don't want to get into the political picture. There's no need to. Everybody is too well known. But if someone were writing about this in, let's say, 50 years from now, writing about this particular era, what do you think they would say?
Well, after they finish crying. Okay. But, because...
Would you repeat that, please?
After they finish crying.
After they finish crying.
Okay, and the thing is that, we all, when you're born and you have hopes and dreams, you want to be a fireman, you want to be a police officer, you want to be a cowboy or a cowgirl, okay, or an astronaut. You should be able to follow your passion. You should be able to read everything that you want to read and need to read to obtain that goal. and to be in a climate that is restrictive and banning books and doing all the naughty
Burning
things.
books. Burning books.
Burning,
What, banning,
burning and banning.
What,
You know.
what is that about?
I don't know. But
Listen. The bell is ringing. School has to end at this time because
website is www.odiehawkins.com. Check out his books. I know, if you want to escape into an alternate but beautiful reality, check out Odie Hawkins.
Shackles across.
And our anthology. Okay? Our anthology as well.
We'll see you next Monday, roughly at the same time.
Or during the week.
We'll
Okay?
talk more about what we talked about.
Have a good life. And if you like the video, please hit the like button or leave a comment. Thank you much.